Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Spiritual Context for Worldly Chaos. And this is our next follow-up interview. If you haven't heard the last 5 episodes, you might want to go back and check out Miriam Jacobs and our conversation about tarot and the chakra system. But this follow-up interview with Miriam Jacobs is more about chakras and the healing process as a whole, and how a healer might approach someone that they're healing. This is also Jessica and I's 3rd interview together, and we had a great time. So I hope you all enjoy this episode. And please don't forget that tomorrow on Sunday and every Sunday, I release what's called This Week in the Sky, where I let everyone know what's coming up astrologically, what transits, new moons, full moons, eclipses, retrogrades, when planets are changing signs. So if you like to stay up to date with what's going on in the sky, make sure to look at the description box below and follow my Substack, and you will receive This Week in the Sky every Sunday. And now, without further ado, here is Miriam Jacobs. Hi, Miriam.
Hi. Nice to meet you, Jessica.
Hi, Miriam.
Miriam, what have you been up to since I've seen you?
You know what I've been up to is, my intent is to go really deep with people, but I realize that in order for me to go deep, I need to go really deep with myself. And so probably, I would say even like a year and a half, I've been like healing more internally, and probably if I wasn't a healer or tarot card reader, I wouldn't have to do that. But because I am, and because I want to, I want to go deep instead of like, is he going to call me on my tarot card reading or body work? Like, yeah, my shoulder hurts. If I want to go deeper, I had to go deeper with myself. So a lot of that seems like I've like peeled away, and some of it's starting to come back, but it's coming back like, as we speak, like the Tower card. It's like, how is this going to settle? So some of it is settling. I don't have to buy a new car. My brother's not dead, which was kind of getting close there. So that I would say that's what I've been doing.
What is going deep for you? What is it that you're diving into?
I think it's meditation. It's allowing my own process to come up, and as a result, it's I think my sessions with people are deepening.
Yeah.
For me, a lot of it manifested physically, in physical ailments that probably I really have been with me like my whole life, maybe, or at least since I was a toddler. And so all of those things that make people, Chiron wounded healer, I have Chiron in my rising. So,
well, that makes it extremely prominent in your chart, is learning from what was so painful for you. Yeah. Do you do guided meditations, or is it mindful meditation or transcendental meditation?
I do my tarot or my chakras. I mostly do chakra lineups because I'm not linear by nature. So I kind of need something that's much more structured, which, as you know from my tarot deck, it's a structure, but it's a structure that you can let go of, or you can break the rules and do something a little different.
Yeah.
You have tarot, and you also have astrology, because it's a structure, but it's a structure that then I'm sure it changes through the years, but yet there's these structures that are in place that make it so that, if they're older, they withstand us. That's why tarot and astrology are there, or chakras are there, and I'm interested in getting everything to to connect. Like if I asked you, so what has changed about you of Chiron in Aquarius, or Chiron rising?
I have a question about Chiron. Like, what are you talking about? I know I've like seen it on my natal chart, but I am not clear on like what you're talking about.
I think that's a question for Vanessa.
Ooh, okay.
It's a Greek mythological character, a centaur, and yeah, that's the archetypal figure of Chiron, is this wise centaur. And it became wise at one point. It got wounded and it was never going to heal there. So this centaur explained its wound to everyone, and used that wound to understand itself better, or himself better, and then used that to help other people grow from its own wound. So I believe that Miriam is, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're going into yourself to find out more about that personal wound, and maybe even able to take it further than the professional healer, since it's not about healing other people right now. It's about understanding it so that when you are communicating with other people, they're benefiting from your understanding of your own wound. And I think sometimes as healers, we can focus way too much on who we're trying to heal, that we forget that relatable bridge that we have, and like why we came to this work, and what it is that we personally have to offer. Because I think every healer everybody has a distinct wound, but every healer also has a distinct way of healing people. And I think capitalism and stuff like that kind of push us to be like these catch-all healers. But if you really understand what it is that punctured you, right? Because it was a puncture wound, and how that cut you off from your body. Because Jessica and I talk about somatics a lot, how that pulled you away from your body because pain makes you want to jump out of your body. And how you get back into your body is through understanding that wound.
Yeah.
I love that you have a nonlinear way of thinking, and I'm curious how you see Chiron, and how it, especially since it's on your ascendant, which is right smack dab in front of you.
I have two things to say. One, I didn't plan on saying that. I just kind of like pulled it from my hat. I came into this interview as just like free form, instead of like, oh, what do I have to study, or what do I have to stay? And maybe that's what's coming from this healing. So I think Chiron is, like many people, myself included, of being a wounded healer. Like what brought people to the work is that they wanted answers. But I know with when I work with people, and especially if you're online, it's just like, oh, how are you? And whatever the conversation it is, and then you go okay, what do you want to know from the cards, or what's your body like? That first piece always comes back again. And the other thing is that I know that even though I wasn't cognitively aware of it, is that I'm using that to explain, because I know that that's Vanessa's framework.
So it sounds like you're currently, what you've been up to is that you're kind of going into your own depths and finding your own authenticity and like center. And like, I'm curious if there is a specific chakra that you sort of lead from when you're hosting or sessions. Like, is there a source that you pull from specifically to be in alignment with yourself while connecting with others?
It could be, I would say, my heart chakra. But then again, what I want to say is it depends on what card I pull, because my cards and the first book, Tarot and the Chakras, Opening New Dimensions to Healers, connects to all of these systems. And so if we then turn back to what some of your first intention was, is it's like, and the cards will show me what chakra I could go to. or it affirms what chakra I can go to, or the cards can, pulling a couple cards can open the door for something that either my client isn't conscious of, or I'm not aware of. And just like any reading, it's like if that doesn't work, that I'm going to go back to, it's a framework. So and holds me to be um, linear, and goes, is it that? So I'm going to say, go back, retract, and just say, it depends.
You talked about linear, and I was listening to our last interview, and you talked about linear a couple of times too. And I know that sometimes in society, if you don't see things in a linear way, you're considered to not be seeing it logically or rationally, or that you are using some kind of sub-level ability, which isn't true. But I'm just curious, when you say I'm trying to hold myself to being linear, are you saying that because empathy, as I've felt it, empathy has overwhelmed me when I don't get a little bit more linear, because linear helps me kind of detach myself from the person's vibration more so I can kind of stay in a symbolic place rather than just feeling all of it. Is that similar to what you're talking about, or is it just too...
I think that it's similar. And then on another level, what I'm talking about is the tarot, or the chakras, or astrology, which is why, like, and that's the way that it makes sense to me. It makes sense if it has something to go by. I mean, and I was, with dance, I was doing some somatic dance, but it was like, oh yeah, let's move around and be free. And that felt good. And then I started to like get a little bit, a little bit distracted from it. And I felt like it needed a structure, which is why I started the tarot and move in motion. Or when you ask the question about what do I do to do that, and that is a lot of meditation and eating properly, or experimenting, or exercising, all of that. But even those individual things have some sort of structure to follow.
I'm curious, with so much of you diving into yourself and getting to know deeper parts of yourself, since you talked about the wounded healer, is there something that you're discovering in you that you're finding you're connecting to with your clients now with a specific wound, or is it still just pretty general or wide open?
It's probably general or wide open, but the approach is a little bit different. So the approach is more like, goes back to being the projector, and waiting for, like, well, what's going to come from me? And to get to that deeper level, for me, and here it goes again. I mentioned something that I was going through with my brother, and my brother had some really health concerns, and it's kind of deep because he's my twin, so then I can see how that's where me being overly empathic came from my relationship with him. So it's always discovering. So I want to open that door to have people discover their own patterns, or maybe where those deeper wounds come from. And maybe this comes in cycles. Like years ago, it was like I was doing a lot of like repetitive stress injuries. Now I rarely get those. So in that way, that part comes in cycles. What's deepening is to get to the root of people's wounds.
Awesome.
I would say the foundation for a lot of my work is polarity therapy. And so polarity therapy is based on, mostly based on Ayurveda. It pulls in some of the Chinese and some other things, but the way that it was developed, it enriches whatever people want to put in it, in that foundation. And one of it is by looking at it. And it's not only the Vedics, I think it's also the Tibetans and probably a lot of other systems that look at the chakras not as just like crown, third eye, throat. It, goes throat down to ether, air, fire, water, and earth. And then in polarity, it has the fingers, ether, air, fire, water, and earth. So that also is a way of connecting to some of the protocols to polarity, but then to take that leap, because it gets me to understand it more, is it can go to the tarot suits, because then it's ether, it's the heart is the air. And you can have, when I was in polarity school, we had lots of discussions like, well, shouldn't the heart be water? Shouldn't it be connecting? And like, why is that? So it poses a conversation that people can have with that. And yet the Vedics gave the chakras those elemental names.
Can we talk a little bit more about the chakras, because that's not my wheelhouse. I've read a couple of things. One of my favorite books is Eastern Body, Western Mind.
Yeah, I like that too.
Such a good book. But it is extremely dense, and so I had a lot of experiences with it, but I didn't really wrap my head around chakras, because it was just very like kind of it was just like, read to heal kind of thing. I would like to know, when it comes to the chakras, and I know using tarot will help as well, but if you were to, I think the last time we spoke, you even talked about the sound of my voice being able to tell you what's, kind of going on with me. What is a deficient chakra as opposed to a well-balanced one? What is, like, let's say the second chakra, which is creativity and sexuality, I think, and probably much more.
I look at them elementally. That is very helpful. And what are those elements that relate? So like the second chakra, which is the water chakra. And then if you know something about the water element and the way that connects, or there's types of movement that you can do, it just helps. And if there's an issue with like your pelvis, or your gynecological organs, then that could be that chakra. So, and then there's emotional aspects too, because that chakra is about connecting. And it's also it's the womb, which is female. That or the solar plexus, then, to me, the solar plexus it's fire. It can also then relate to digestion. It can relate to ego. So it depends on if you find it in your body, or if I'm going over someone's body and finding something in that particular part, I might want to ask a question having to do with what that relates to. Or it could be like the air chakra, which is the heart, then it's breathing. So if there's an issue about breathing, then perhaps what you can do is you can go to that chakra. For me, when I looked at when I still lived in New York, I had this job where I would go and teach basically people who were, quote unquote, mentally handicapped or whatever, and I'd go and teach these art classes through this group called Hospital Audiences. And there were people who their chakras, you couldn't touch them. Like you can't, I was into chakras then, and I was going down the chakras, and it was like the I don't want to say it was shut down, but you couldn't access it. So say if someone's insecure, I might want to access their fire, their solar plexus chakra.
When you're diagnosing or when you're doing something to someone, what is it that you want out of this situation? Like what if you're seeing that you want this person to have more fire, what is it that you're asking them to do in order to get that chakra moving?
I would contact not just their solar plexus, but I would contact other aspects of their body that relate to fire. And that's a very Ayurvedic way of looking at things. Or if there's too much fire, then do I look at another chakra or another element?
Can you tell me what you mean by contact?
I can use different kinds of touch because the touch relates to the involution and evolution of energy. Or I might look at, if I'm like at a loss, I might look at cards that they pulled and they have to connect to that. There's people I work on that I never pull cards. There's people I read for who I never touch their bodies, or some of them I haven't even met, so in person. And so I'm going to use that. So there's all these different ways of connecting. And then I'm going down my body again, because it's like in polarity then, and Dr. Stone, the founder, laid out that, Aries was forehead, Taurus was throat, shoulders were air or Gemini. So, fire is Aries, throat Taurus, Gemini shoulders. So if you're a body worker, maybe doing this can help you learn some astrology. And then there's the chest is water, so shoulders, Cancer. Solar plexus is fire, which is Leo. After Leo, then is Virgo, is kidneys. So I'm interested in making the connections for that so that people can connect, because the whole of it ends up being about our body vibrations. I'm not necessarily consciously aware of that. I'm just doing that from this background that I have, which then evolves.
Yeah. You have so many ways of getting to a person, right? You've got tarot, you've got touch, you've got meditation, you've got, there's all these ways. What is it that comes, maybe I'm asking something that is different for everybody, but what's coming out of me? Like if you recognize that I'm just going to stay with solar plexus. If you recognize that my solar plexus is losing fire or doesn't have enough fire, or there's distorted fire, or however you experience it, or whatever card I bring out, is it that you want me to talk? Do you want me to, like you said, connect these patterns? Do I communicate then what is the wound? Or is it that I'm feeling it in my body what the wound is? Or is it memories? Or is it or is it kind of anybody sort of experiences whatever they experience?
Anybody experiences whatever they want to experience. And sometimes I get that, and that's an intuitive hit. Sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I do. So I want people to get to this place where they can tell me. Sometimes I'll tell them. And there's people in all of these things that, there's some people who talk. I have body work clients who I've had for years, and they get on the table and they, they talk the whole time, and then there's other people who aren't going to talk at all. So it's sort of my call whether I bring them out or not.
So you like loosen them up. There's something you find somewhere that you've got to loosen that person. And then that person, it's sort of like breaking a dam. Is that what you're looking for? Kind of like where, like, I know maybe it's a block, but.
Right. I want it like a slow leak. I don't want like a whole big blob.
I don't want a deluge. Not popping balloons.
And, you know, and it again, it's like we're talking about it now, but it's not really something that I'm going to talk about or even sometimes are conscious of, or if I give a tarot card reading, I'm not going to tell people to cut it out or something, you know, or say specific things. I'd rather like open the door for them to see it, and then maybe I'll help reframe it.
So it sounds like the work that you're doing is sort of extracting unconscious or maybe conscious information in order to see the derangements. Like if I'm understanding it through the lens of Ayurveda, you're sort of extracting bodily information that might be conscious or unconscious. I'm curious what you do with that information with the person you're working with. Do you then show them a path towards equilibrium or balance with the macro and micro? And
it definitely can be that. And it's just a way of expressing. Really, it's just like people to be seen and maybe heard, or me energetically meeting their energy.
Love that.
You know, it's like, you know, there's some musicians who have innate talent, who, you know, learn chords and notes because they have to play with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other people who learn chords and notes and don't have that innate talent. You know, it's just connecting, because that's really what it's about, is that do I connect with what another person wants or not? And if I don't, then, you know, or if we do a piece of work and that could be one session, or it could be a series of sessions, you know, or maybe they hate my work. It's like, well, then it's a reframe of I'm not the right practitioner. All that matters with that is that if a practitioner has training and if the client connects.
I appreciate that, because I think that a lot of times healers have a goal or an agenda, you know, or something that they want to see by the end of it. And body work in general, you know, whether you're doing massage or acupuncture, acupressure, you can do whatever you want with whatever I fix, or you can do whatever you want with whatever I tapped into, you know, like it's not, I don't have an agenda for your shoulder after that. You know, I'm just here to examine it and, you know, feel through it and help you in some kind of way.
Well, that's where I might give them some exercise, you know, or I might give them you know, and I have to be careful of what I say, or, you know, I can't prescribe, but I can suggest an exercise, or I can suggest an herb, because I have a lot of information about herbs. And if I don't know, I'm going to either send them to someone else or look it up. So, you know, or have them look it up.
Well, you know, it's I think the mark or a sign of a real healer is someone who also points people in directions, you know, because you aren't an expert on everything. No one is. And that's the beauty of the community, is that you have other people that you trust, or books that you trust, or programs that you trust, that you can then point them to in order to continue their healing process. Because most people, I think, by a time that they feel their healing taking, you know, like really happening, you know, where they kind of feel like less burdened by their healing, they can't really pinpoint the one thing that did it. They can tell you there are moments that really impacted them, but it was a series of things that really brought them there.
I totally agree with you. And something like meditation just makes all of that so much easier.
I agree with that.
Everything you're saying, it's like access to the body. Like, we live in a society that is so focused on the head. We believe that we are moving logically through time and space, and like decisions are made with the mind, with logic, with reason. Like, through accessing your body, you access whatever your authority is, whatever your authenticity is, whatever your body needs. It's like, and like accessing the body you have to do through body work.
Which is why I like somatic dance, because it's like, in order for anything to change, we have to move. And so, and what happens most often, not all the time, is that people aren't going to notice where they have, if you want to call it a blockage, until it's in the physical form.
Wait, I have a crazy observation that I want to throw by you, Miriam.
Uh-huh.
I have this working theory. I am sober. I do not ingest intoxicants. But I have this working theory that I haven't explored since becoming sober 6 years ago. I never could smoke weed because I would get what I call body horror. And I had this theory that it was from all of my chakras with congested energy, with trauma, with emotions, whatever. Like if you hit that pigeon pose and then suddenly you're crying in yoga class. Like, so if I smoked weed, I would suddenly get this onslaught of congestion in like specific chakra regions. And I had this theory that I never explored of pairing the medicinal factors or qualities of marijuana with a somatic practice in order to expedite the movement, the like release of this congestion and like this energy. I'm just curious what you think about that.
I think that that's like absolutely fascinating and a really very interesting observation, and probably what led you to, I take it that you drank. Is that what you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a reason why it's called spirits.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, and that it was like almost too much.
Mm-hmm.
Or not almost, it was way too much. And if you experience chakras like that, can you go and experience that by doing like chakra meditations and experience that where you have more control over it? Because if you have an addictive personality, you're just going to probably want more and more. My understanding of it, I had a gift of that. I couldn't become addicted because I got sick too fast. So I would get sick and I would have to stop. But if you didn't, that's like, that to me, whether it's just you or someone else, that's sort of fascinating. And, and then polarity also has these yoga type exercises, and that, then fire, I need fire on and do this Sagittarius thighs and do these exercises there, or air, do some shoulder work. Most yoga doesn't go into the elements so much, but it might be something that you could explore and see if that is. And if the medicinal stuff, I mean, I'd be really curious to see what your experience with that is. Like if you do it like just like gummies or something, or that might be way too much, or maybe you're just like,
right,
spirit anyway.
Yeah, of course, never worried about addiction to that experience. It was always the same chakras, always the same parts of my body that were suddenly so uncomfortable, or like so hot, so tense, so cold. Like, I'm definitely not worried about getting addicted to that. But maybe with the release, I think you could get addicted to the therapeutic experience. It's like, people who work out all the time, or like you get hooked on this high, this endorphin rush of like when you find something that like feels really good in your body.
And you do it until you do it until you like throw your back out or something.
Yeah.
And it hits you physically. Oh, okay. I guess I went too much here. Yeah, I mean, I think that that's amazing, and it sounds like really authentic to me because I didn't hear of it. I mean, some of it is like some old injuries that came up, or are related to like your mother or something.
Yeah.
I don't know that you took on energetically, and that I just popped in my head, and I'm saying it.
Dang.
Yeah, right.
Pretty spot on there, Miriam.
Yeah, I don't even know, but you know, that's I think that that's how it works.
What I also think is really beautiful about this conversation is we really do forget how much healing is a like a you flick it almost. It's like this is just needs to be flicked. This just needs we need to this is where I'm feeling it. What's going on there? And instead of, these courses are great, you know, reading books is amazing and all that, but at the same time, that is over intellectualizing it. Sometimes it makes you feel safer to understand it before it happens. And maybe it helps if you want to talk about like a faster facilitator, understanding it will make it happen faster than just amplifying it. But and actually, as something I went through was ayahuasca, that I had no idea. There was no way I could have written what happened. There was no way I could have expected the specific hallucinations that happened to happen. And even when I say them, I can't even bring back the emotion that I had when they happened. And I'm not even sure where I can place everything, but it really was so meaningful to me. And it was deeper than something I could have expected. And so I think that's kind of what your work does too, is you sort of let that person, you focus that person. And like you said, it's with a structure, it's with a foundation, but also it's with a direction, so that person has something that they're kind of like a tunnel they're kind of going down, like even with shamanism, where the vision is the animal meeting you, and then you go down into the tunnels and you don't know where you're going or what's going to happen, but you just sort of surrender to the experience.
But I think, Vanessa, probably what you're going into is because you're a communicator. Here you're still going back to, I want to communicate what I know. So the fact that you took this different road and you did this ayahuasca experience and you can't even put it in words, I think for you was the perfect experience. And then do you have to write it down? I guess not, because it's still with you. I mean, from the last time that I spoke to you, you just look so much more open, and whether that was a pivotal point or not, I don't know, but it's like, oh, maybe that's what happened to Vanessa.
Oh, I did ayahuasca like 7 years ago, 8 years ago. But I appreciate you seeing that, because I do feel a lot more lighthearted or a lot more open, because I think I went through a moment with spirituality that allowed me to stop trying to mathematize it and stop trying to make it this perfect algorithm in my head where what I understood symbolically would pop out something that would be absolutely perfect for that moment. And that's why I appreciate your work, is that it's not about what's supposed to come out or proving anything to yourself. It's just, this is what we have living inside of us. This is what's going on inside of all of us. It's different for everybody, but we all have something happening. And you're more of like that, maybe that conduit, than me being a translator.
And sometimes for me, I won't even say anything. Like if I see it and I had this wonderful woman for a client, and it ended, but it ended because she had me pull cards, and what she was asking about or what she was explaining about how she was handling her teenage daughter. And I worked for her for several sessions, and she never mentions her daughter or her husband or anything. And then it came up like twice in a row, and I was like, I wanted to just shake her and go, "You're like alienating yourself from your daughter." And what came out of me is that I can't help you with this.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure her daughter's like, pulling her through the ringer, as 13-year-old girls will do.
For a second. Well, we were all daughters, so.
Yeah.
Well, Miriam, can you tell me what you would want someone to know about your style of healing? Because I think a lot of people don't know where to go or why to go to which one, or I think everyone's very overwhelmed with the potentials of healing. And what would chakra, what would tarot, or what would your style of just allowing the body to speak for itself? Who would you talk to, or what would it be? Yeah.
I would say I support people in going through transitions and help them to embody their own wisdom.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And the transitional point is the hardest point. It's where you can't look backwards. It's hard to move forward.
And, that's all a part of it. And I would also say that what I'm looking for is the magic for myself and for others. And all of that is just like affirmed in coincidences, or magic or synchronicity type stuff. And then that synchronicity just has to be expressed some way. Whether it's telling another person about it, because then the energy gets expressed, or it gets written in a journal, or it gets, in a movement piece. And know that it's always going to change. It's like you do this one layer, and then there's another layer. And that, I learned back in my New York City days in the 80s, where I had ran a nonprofit print shop, and there was this woman who came in who had gone to Tibet, and I was like, Tibet? And she did the silkscreen print of this little Tibetan village, and she said, yeah, you shoot for enlightenment, and then you get there and things change. And then you do another layer. And some layers are like, this is scary. And then others are like, oh, okay, I get it. And with that, meditations, and for me, some kind of chakra meditation works the best.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining me again, especially after so long.
Oh, you're welcome.
I really appreciate it.
Okay, I appreciate it too. I appreciate this conversation.
Yeah, what a joy.
So thank you, and thank you, Jessica, too.
Yes.
Okay. It sounds like healing, Healing is healing if you make yourself available to it.
100.
And you throw anything that comes your way at the wall, it's like whatever sticks will sticks. But as long as you're looking for it, it's there to be found.
Yeah, you don't want to have to be knocked over the head with it. I don't.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Miriam.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you.
I hope everyone enjoyed this episode, and if you've been enjoying my podcast, please feel free to subscribe. Our next segment of interviews is with a woman named Hannah McElroy, who is a tarot reader and an Enneagram reader, so that's going to be really cool. And don't forget to check out This Week in the Sky and my Substack. Everything is in the description box below. And if you'd like to check out any of Miriam Jacobs' materials, her books, they are also in the description box below. All right, until next time, as above, so below. Blessed be.